Welcome back to Recall the Midwife. In tonight's episode, we're going to talk about Series 2, Episode 4. I'm Becky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jen. And just a reminder that this week's episode deals with severe physical disability, caring for disabled persons, and childhood trauma. So if any of these topics are ones you'd prefer to skip this week, we understand and hope you join us for the next one.
In tonight's episode, we meet Douglas and Ruby Roberts. They already have 2 girls, and Douglas places a bet with Fred that their 3rd child will be a boy. Sister Evangelina and Jenny Lee deliver the baby, which is a boy, but when he's born, we discover that he has spina bifida. Dr. Turner is called for, and the baby is taken straight into hospital. When Douglas Jr. returns home, he is rejected by Ruby, who feels guilty that she may have caused the condition. Jenny Lee steps in to help the family. At Sister Julianne's suggestion, Jenny Lee accompanies Jane to St. Gideon's, and Jenny Lee learns that Jane was actually a patient there. Thinking that the baby may have to be put into their care, Jenny Lee takes Douglas to visit St. Gideon's, and he takes a gamble that Ruby won't give up on their child. We also meet the Reverend Appleby Thornton, who has just returned from Sierra Leone and will be staying at Nonata's house until his parish lodgings are ready. So, girls, I just need to start by saying I bloody love this episode.
Oh,
Same.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Also, you guys, a little interesting thing. So my mom and I have been kind of sporadically rewatching some of The Crown as well on Netflix. And the I don't know the actor's name, and I didn't get to looking it up, but the guy who plays Appleby Thornton is now playing Prime Minister Wilson in The Crown. In series.
He's an amazing actor.
He's so, and he's a labor leader. He's got all these amazing, I mean, his character is also just a very compelling and like interesting character. But like, I saw him in the Call the Midwife, and then we turned it on, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the guy! He's the Prime Minister, and it was just
There's Jason Watkins. He's massive over here.
Oh my god,
brilliant!
Love him, so adorable. Oh my goodness, love him so much.
Same.
Okay, so should we start with Ruby and Douglas, because that's
that is a tough storyline.
Also, can I just say one thing? And I don't say this often in this show. Douglas is fit.
I thought the same. Yeah, Douglas is definitely going into the pantheon of like really like fit, cute, hubbies on the show. You know who he's kind of as cute as is the guy who was married to Shirley, the lady that they had their baby kidnapped. Remember?
Yes.
They're both. And also the thing about Douglas, I should probably save this for later, but a incredibly emotionally and relationally intelligent man, which you don't see that much on this show. Like, he's a real hero in this story, and it's very interesting.
I've got one thing to say, but we'll talk about that later on the last part of it. Well,
I don't want to jump ahead, but he's great. Also, this is a very small and probably like only I would think of this, but did you guys? I don't know why, but I feel like the girl who plays Jenny and the guy who plays Douglas, when I would see them in scenes together, it almost they made me think that they were like brother and sister, like looks wise. Don't you feel like they look like they come from the same family? Is this only me?
It's never crossed my mind. I'll
double check it.
I don't know, something about their faces and their hair. I don't know. It just made me. They look like they literally could have been brother and sister. But, anyways, I mean, I don't know. That's like a stupid observation, but just had to waste time on that. So there you go. You guys got a little extra for me today.
Well, we'll find out if that's true. Well, to be fair, I don't find Jenny Lee fit, but obviously I'm not a lesbian. But if I was, I think she would be very attractive.
She's a gorgeous girl. I mean,
she's gorgeous, but I don't find her fit. Do you know what I
mean? Yeah. Ruby was really beautiful as well, though. Like they were a suitably like good looking, like kind of glamorous couple, I thought.
Also, they were quite related, like quite often in Call the Midwife, the man is quite well, not standoffish, but do you know what I mean? Like he's more what we're accustomed to.
Yeah, he's a little bit more set apart.
Just newsflash, Jessica Raine, who plays Jenny Lee, is one of 2 sisters.
One of 2 sisters. Okay, so no relation. Oh well. But yeah, anyway. No, he was very. I thought the fact that they also set him up as being kind of connected because he was friends with Frank. They had kind of a,
Fred.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Fred. I am just. I'm literally the worst with names ever.
You really are. like, we should do a disclaimer, like, Jen just gets names wrong, deal with it, it's fine. We know who she means, you know who she means, just let us carry on.
You know how people have face blindness? That's what I have, but for people's names. I am very good with faces, but I am terrible with names. Like, I think I might have like a brain condition that's like
my husband's the same. My husband's the same. Like, every single kid in their class, in my daughter's class, I know the name of.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and he comes up with names that's just like nowhere near any of them. Like, what did he say? Doris or something. I was like, what are you doing?
No. People will like ask me. They'll say like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's Jennifer, whatever." And then they're like, oh, "Okay, if I forget, I may have to ask you again." I'm like, "Oh, never. Don't worry about that. Ask me as many times as you need to. I'm terrible with names." And I feel like they're like, "Oh, haha, no, I literally would remember like the second time." And I'm like, "No, I will meet you 5 times, and I will actually struggle to remember your name. I'll remember everything else about you. I'll remember everything we talked about, but your name will absolutely be a complete loss to me." It's a shocking problem I have. Okay, but anyways, to the important part. So they go and deliver the baby, and Sister Evangelina is really proud. She wants to deliver the baby because it's the 3rd child of this family that she's delivering. And Jenny,
they've asked for Sister Evangelina by name. Well, obviously by name because they know her, but
yeah. And when the baby comes out, there's, they kind of show that something has happened to the child's back, and that there's, something going on there. And Sister Evangelina is, perfectly calm, collected and everything, but Jenny really has a hard time with it. You can see immediately on her face. And
which annoyed me, because I feel like she's been there long enough now to kind of have a bit better of a poker face. Like, I get it's shocking, but like, she literally was like uncontrollable, like crying, or her face, and I was just like, bloody hell, Jenny, pull it together. The mum is you're more upset than the mum would be. Like, come on, calm down.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why later on Sister Evangelina says, "Oh, you're doing all of this because of your guilt, aren't you? Because you feel like you kind of you set the bad tone from the beginning at the birth, and so now you feel bad about it." I mean, the thing I do try to give myself when I'm watching this is remembering that like a lot of the stuff that Jenny is experiencing, she's literally only been there for a year, so I feel like she's still having a lot of firsts. And I mean, and even when the nuns and the midwives sit down at the table to eat lunch, Sister Monica Jones says, "Oh, I remember the first time I saw a baby with this condition be born."
Yeah, but she also said about green potatoes, like something like 1950s. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
but she also said that they used to euthanize babies that were born with this condition.
It was terrible.
I was like, what?
I was like, Sister Evangelina, you're literally 1 generation older than these girls. You're talking about this like you lived in the Dark Ages or whatever. I mean, she was practically saying that like conditions like this are caused by like a demon infestation in the child. I mean, I was just
but also she was admitting to murder.
Oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I was like, and everyone was like, well, I mean, oh yeah, that was it was really horrible. But so they take the baby to the hospital for, I believe it's surgery. They have to give the baby some surgery to kind of correct the situation. And then
legs, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then they bring him home, and he's so cute, and he's wrapped up in all these little like knitwear outfits, and he's got these little like leg warmer things on, and he was so sweet. He literally was just like, he looked like a watermelon with like little 2 pokey legs coming out. He was so bottom heavy. It was, oh gosh, he was so sweet.
Do you know the scene that I loved though, when so Jenny Lee steps up and is basically looking after the baby to help out because the mother's rejected him. The bit where she's out pushing the pram and Sister Evangelina cycles down the road in her shades.
I totally missed that.
I also loved that. I loved it.
Oh, I gotta watch it again to catch that.
But this is one thing I'll say about Douglas. When Jenny Lee suggests that he baby's out, takes the baby out, he does say that it's not a man's job to go about pushing prams.
Which I didn't agree with, but at the same time he's fit, so I'll let him off.
Yeah, good looks.
I do have to say they were harsh on Jenny. They're like, oh yeah, well, I can't be arsed looking after him, so, and he's like, yeah, I can't either. Well, you do it round the shifts, like, that you're doing, even though I've got loads of other rounds and probably got to like, clean pustules on other people and all these awful things we've got to do in the district round. Yeah, you just carry on. Can't be, but we don't want to. So to be fair, I will say there was a scene actually where Ruby, so obviously Ruby the mum takes ages to come round to the baby, blah blah blah. But there was a scene where he leaves her in the room with the baby when it's just got back from hospital. And the kids, the two girls were all like, "Oh, I want to play with it," and they don't. They were like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And they literally don't tell the kids anything. Like good parenting. Anyway, so the kids go downstairs with the dad, and like the mums, when they closed the door of the room, oh, I cried like a baby. Like it was horrendous because I had postnatal depression, and the fear I felt first day being on my own with her. Such a dark day, and that really, honestly, it was so bleak because obviously she was suffering from postnatal depression, from not understanding what to do. She was blaming herself because she was like, "What have I done? I shouldn't have worked. I put stuff on my bump, and I shouldn't have." Like, because obviously they're so ignorant of the condition. But that scene, it was so well done, so bleak, so dark, like so true. And then also another thing. So sorry, I've just got loads of notes on this because it killed me. But so they take it to St. Gideon's, don't they? What would you
the
say?
Baby.
The Gideon.
They visit St. Gideon's.
Sorry, they visit. They don't take the baby, do they?
Yeah.
The dad goes and she goes to try and visit. Why did they explain why they were going to do it? Did she agree to go to St. Gideon's?
Well, I think you mean when Douglas and Ruby and Jenny with the baby all go to St. Gideon's.
So Ruby, I don't think Ruby doesn't go to St. Gideon's.
Well, she sits in the car, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, no, she doesn't.
I think she does.
No, yeah, Ruby's in the car.
He was like, your heart's like a train.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was like, I can't go in. But
was the whole point just to see what it's like so she agreed to look what it was like to see if the baby needed to move there?
Yeah, I think Jenny Lee genuinely thought that was the only option because they were going to take care of the baby.
And I think they were kind of starting to reach a breaking point as well, because I mean, they don't say explicitly, but like Jenny is coming, feeding the baby, changing the baby, helping out. I mean, she's literally even making meals for the other kids. She's taking the baby for walks. I mean, she's almost like a nanny, she tries
to take the baby for the walk with the mum, doesn't she, with Ruby? And then that neighbor comes on
and
calls her a cripple. I my God. Gasped.
Oh my God. So I'll actually interject something personal here. So my dad was born with muscular dystrophy. Now, the kind that he had was basically undiagnosed until a little bit later on in his life. He did not really, there wasn't any like presenting disability until he was older, and then it was progressive after that. But a lot of the language around disability is incredibly discriminatory and stigmatizing, and that's something that I feel incredibly sensitive about, as his daughter. And so when that woman, and I'm going to call her a woman because I'm going to try not to say a rude word, but when she walked up and she basically blamed Jenny and Douglas for being, like stuck up and everything, and look, well now finally, you get yours back or whatever.
Ruby and Douglas, by the way, just saying.
Sorry, Ruby and Douglas. Sorry. Oh geez, who did I even say? Jenny. Oh God. I mean, oh God, I really wanted to like punch the screen. I was so mad about that. I just thought it was so, because like I have seen and experienced, again through him, like some of the things that people can do, and no one was ever that rude, to us that I ever witnessed. But even just people who are pitying of a disabled person or a person with a disability
or dismissive, it's just
oh my god, it's I felt it very viscerally. So I'm with you, Al. This episode really touches. And you know what line actually really also was sent home to me in a lot of ways was when Jenny was visiting St. Gideon's with Jane, and she was just kind of getting a feel for what the actual place was and kind of what they did for people there. And she said, "Oh, well, so this is actually a nice home." And the director said, "No, this is not a home. This is a place where we care."
And Jane was like, "They do what they can."
Yeah.
But, and then she was like, "Yeah, a home would be better. Their actual home would be better."
She's like, "If there's any way they don't have to come here, they shouldn't come here. Yeah. This is literally like a place you only go if you absolutely have to go here." And that to me was, I thought, a very, as kind a way of put it as possible. So
Douglas and Jenny Lee go into the St. Gideon's and have a tour around, and they're all lovely in there and everything's nice. But Douglas, this is something that really annoyed me. So Ruby didn't go in, right? She sat in the car with her heart like a train. Douglas goes in, and then he says, "If I know my rubes, she'll do like if I can bet on my rubes or whatever." And like the anger in me, the fury and anger in me that he had the audacity. I know it worked, but he had the audacity to like basically try and do this trick on his wife when she was so vulnerable in a really dark place.
Oh, I saw it totally different.
Oh, really? Well, so we both agreed that he did bluff, being like, we're going to take the baby there.
Yes.
And then
I don't think he would have let the baby go.
No, I don't either. But it's the fact that he tricked her like that. Like, just talk to her, be compassionate. Don't try and bloody trick her. Like, I was just so angry about it. I think it's because I was really hormonal when I watched it as well.
Yeah, I didn't get that reaction to it.
Oh, I'd be fuming.
I'm gonna say I felt differently, because the thing is, I felt like talking to her compassionately and gently, like that time had passed, like there had already been many I felt between different people, like many conversations about, okay, like, come on, you have to do something. And even when they went to the hospital, like she said, no, I can't go in. And he did acknowledge that, her heart was racing. She was obviously feeling, like a lot of intense emotion, possibly anxiety and everything else. But I think he kind of, again, I don't know that he would have followed through on it, but I think it was, I thought of it as, someone who was trying something different based on a lot of
justice for Ruby really annoyed me, even though he's
No, the thing is, though, sometimes when you know someone really well, you can do something different than maybe conventional wisdom would tell you could do.
I just felt I
saw it that way.
I can only compare it to, I honestly feel like for the first, 2.5 years after my daughter was born, like I felt like a bruised peach that was very slowly getting unbruised, which is a completely really bad analogy because they just get worse, don't they? I'm basically rotten now. But like, I just feel like in such a vulnerable state to trick her like he did, and I know it was all for the greater good and all that, but honestly, I was fuming watching it. Anyway, that's just me.
Yeah.
But it all turned out well. They kept the baby. She loved it in the end. Little Douglas Jr.
And he thrived.
Yeah, he did thrive, which is amazing. And he was cute in all his knitwear.
Yeah, I know. And Fred was really sweet when he came up and he met the baby for the first time. And he was like, "Oh, look, you won the bet. I'm gonna pay my money out. Like, what a cheeky little chappy you've got here," and everything. He was
also with those parents. He will grow up to be a very good-looking boy.
Exactly.
Oh,
wait, can I just tell you, we may cover this in the season end recap, but the line, and I'm not even going to try because I absolutely do not remember this fellow's name, but the young guy at the St. Gideon's house who had cerebral palsy, Jacob. Oh, when he came and he said, "Oh, because Douglas was asking what's it like to live here," and he said, "Oh, it's really nice. Yeah, I really like it." He's like, "It smells like biscuits all the time because there's a factory next door," and he said they give us the broken ones.
I know. And, that got me. I was like, oh my god.
But it also made me jealous.
I know. I would love to live near a biscuit factory.
Oh my god, wouldn't we all? But it was, and you know what? Again, we haven't talked about it in a little while, but the writing on this show is always amazing. And that line to me, just it just did so much work, and it was so poetic and so beautiful. And it's like it just communicated so many things at once. And
just on that, actually, just really quick, just as a side note, I actually did finish listening to Call the Midwife, the book. Because Becky's going to be like, "Oh, you didn't actually read it." Like, I can read. Anyway, I finished it. The whole thing is bleak. How they have managed to find this lovely, heartwarming stories and writing from it is amazing, because honestly, it was just bleak. It was just a very dark listen. So even more kudos to the writers, how they've managed to find like these amazing, who even listened or read that book and thought, "Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll make a lovely, heartwarming Sunday night story." Like, I don't know how they've done it, because honestly, it's horrendous.
Well, but the thing is, the show in so many ways is not a heartwarming Sunday night story. Yeah. I mean, when, like, as we've been finding out each week, like this is a really heavy show. They deal with, I mean, hence we put a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode. Like, they talk about such serious things. And I mean, I'm obviously notorious on this podcast for having said how I cried during every single episode. I mean, even when I rewatch it, they all really get me. Like,
I think I probably did beat you this week just because I was in floods. But I want to talk about the fight, but without we can't talk about the fight without context. So I think we should start now on the lovely Jane and Reverend Appleby Thornton.
I love the Reverend Appleby Thornton.
Oh, me too. I would not want to be around him for more than a minute, but my God, I love watching him on telly.
No, I would love it because he just talks and talks and talks, which, Alex, is like when I visit your house and your mum just talks and talks and talks. And for someone who's not good at making small talk, you can while away so much time and not have to try and make conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm obviously me and Jen are big talkers like that.
I know. Yeah, we're the rebel Reverend Appleby Thornton, and you're the Jane in this.
Well, but you know, without any.
I loved him. I would go on a date with him. He's so sweet. It's too much talking for me, but still, I mean, he was adorable. Oh my gosh, so cute. Also, can I just again a shout out for people who have showing a romance between two people that aren't just young and beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, mwah, another chef's kiss. I love to see it.
I think I prefer the Jane and Reverend Appleby Thornton romance to the Noakes romance.
Controversial. That is controversial. I don't prefer it, but I don't rate either one more. I think they're both equal to me. I have equal love for them. But on this, let's start first by I'm going to tell this gave me the ick. Right, I hated it. I hate it so much. I'm obviously in a bit of a mood today. Again. So when the girls, before Reverend Appleby Thornton turns up, the girls were all like, okay. I don't like the asides about Jane being quiet and stuff. Like, shut it. We get it. She's quiet. That's fine now. Shut up. Like, Trixie's a bit of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were just,
that annoyed me. But there was one bit.
Trixie is not going to be, she has a lot more work to do before she's going to get really, truly, sensitive on that stuff.
I feel like she's a rough diamond at the moment and she gets softened. But that's by the by. Anyway, they do this bit where they talk about the first kiss stories. There is nothing I hate more than people asking questions like that about that. I think it's really intriguing.
My God.
I really hate it. It reminds me of my first day at college when I was in an all girl class and they were going around the room talking about everyone when they'd lost their virginity and stuff. And they were trying to get I've just met these people. I was a virgin, not gonna lie. And I was a bit like, why are you trying to do this? Why are we doing this weird shaming? And the way they shamed Jane. And I'm like, this is the 1950s, you big slags. You should all not have had a kiss. Not have been married.
No, I'm with you on this, Alex.
Yeah,
There's nothing more painful than, and also nothing more painful than when you're in that group and it's going around the group and you know it's going to get to you.
Yeah. But even if I'd had the most kisses in the world, it's my business to tell. I don't want to choose to do it when you're asking me. If I want to give that information, I will. I'll volunteer. I don't want to be going around making people feel uncomfortable. So I really hated that. And then they were like, Trixie was like, I'm afraid this goldfish. Oh, no, it wasn't Trixie who said that. Sorry, I'm just doing it in a different voice. Jane was like, I'm afraid this goldfish shall remain nameless then. And and she walked off and they were all like, looking at each other like, oh my God, I can't believe she's not been kissed. I can't believe it. And I'm like, why can't you believe it, you nutters? Like, it's not like you were all off at it all week. Do you know what I mean? All the time.
Right. Well, and to the point, Cynthia said, I think my first kiss was when I was 8 years old and it was some guy named Bob and he kissed me on the cheek on the playground. I mean, it wasn't you know what I mean? It was just, the whole thing was, I completely agree with you. It was so terrible.
Yeah. Also, on this point, sorry, I've got a lot of it on this point because it really annoyed me. Trixie was very judgy on it and all this. And I loved Sister Bernadette. She really came into her own for me in this. She was trying to get Trixie to understand it. She was like, well, if she's not very good at speaking to, colleagues, how do you think she's going to speak to men? Basically shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And stop being so judgy.
I think Sister Bernadette knows, last week we were saying, do you think Sister Julienne will have told what Jane's background is? I got the sense from this episode that Sister Bernadette knew.
Oh, she does, because Trixie was like, where did Sister Julienne find her? And she was like, none of your business is basically what she said.
Yeah.
So again, a big up to Sister Bernadette there, because that was amazing.
Well,
and also big up to Sister Bernadette, because she senses the romance between the two of them.
Yes.
Say more about that, Bex. Please say more.
Are we talking about the goldfish? No.
Yeah, the goldfish.
The goldfish scene.
Well, no, the bit where the goldfish scene. Yeah, that's gorgeous. That scene where she feeds the goldfish too much and they try and save it.
Yeah.
I'm talking the bit at the table where they're like, "Who's going to go with the?"
Yes,
Reverend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like Sister Julian and Appleby Thornton are like kind of talking, and he just kind of keeps going, and then it's like, oh well, I've got to go. And she like, she's like, the phone's ringing. I hear it. I got to get out of here. And so he's kind of just left standing there, like casting about. And then he sees Jane, and he walks over to her, and she's just like dumped like a bunch of food in the goldfish bowl, and he's like, oh my gosh, and they fish it out together, and it's this very cute scene, but like just perfectly timed. Like Sister Bernadette kind of walks by, and she's like, like just from a distance, she sees them kind of getting along, and then there's a couple other times where she sees them. It's a bit of a montage scene where like music is top, and she kind of like peeps them like out, like seeing how they're kind of getting along and having a good rapport. And then there's another time where it's like, oh well, who could Appleby go out with today, to kind of observe,
and then none of them wanted.
Yeah, and all of the girls are sitting there just like, not me, not me, not me, not me. And then that's when Bernadette goes, oh, I think it would be really great if he went
she just says it dead loud. She just goes, Jane.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight away.
Exactly. And both of them, again, very chummy Noakes in this way. Both of them are kind of like, wait, what? Me? Like, wouldn't have had the courage to do that themselves. And then they go out and they kind of get to talk and everything like that. Oh, and this was so sweet. So they go to that couple's house that are very, very, very poor. They live in a really rundown place. And so they're kind of caring for that person. But Appleby Thornton gets like a bug bite or a spider bite or something like that on his finger, or he touches something, I don't know. And when they come out, he's kind of itching it and whatever. And she's like, oh, stop, hold on. And so without really saying anything, she picks a little tube of ointment and she like puts it on his hand for him, and like and then some really cheeky girl walking by, she goes, oh, love's young dream. Oh, and they both feel very like anxious, and then they pull their hands away and everything. But it was just it was so sweet.
And then he obviously gets like, no, I don't think he's like ambushed or anything, but basically the others are like, oh, you should ask Jane to this dance. And he's a bit like, oh.
But they all want to go, right? But they don't want Jane to be left out. So
yeah, but also they see what we see. They're like, you should take her to the dance because you obviously like each other, but you're both too shy and weird to do anything. He is weird. But that scene where he asks her to the dance, and it's just the best.
Oh my gosh, so sweet.
When she stood at the top of the steps and she can't bring herself to go down and meet him. The Reverend is basically stood outside the dance waiting for Jane. Douglas has got drunk because Ruby's abandoned his flesh and blood.
That really annoyed me as well. That really bad acting, by the way, of him being like, flesh and blood, my own flesh and blood. I was like, I've forgiven a lot in this episode, but that was terrible. And
Douglas picks a fight with a group of teddy boys, and then Reverend Appleby Thornton steps in.
I love it the way he steps in though. He's like, you don't want to be done for murder. to the teddy boys.
But
I'm so glad when Jane actually summons up the courage to speak to the Reverend. I'm glad that he actually knows that she did come to the dance. She didn't just stand him up.
Yeah, but do you know what else was heartbreaking just before that? The scene of her coming home and just crying. Oh my God, that was so. Also, I don't know if this is something I was reading into too much. I watched it 5 times to try and understand why. But she had something on the bottom of her foot, and they were like trying to focus on that. And I don't know if that was me being weird, or if it was just, I didn't know if that was like this weird thing.
I thought it was just her stockings, like seamed stockings.
I didn't know if it was like they were trying to show that she'd had like some kind of operation. I don't know if it was like electric shock treatment through her foot or something. Anyway, that was me going way too deep.
Well, Jane, because she says that life for me is full of fear. Do you think, like nowadays, it would just be anxiety, like extreme anxiety?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's why I wondered if she'd had treatment or something like that, and that's what they were trying to reference, but I think that was just me.
Well, so he comes to her first after they've kind of had that dance where she stood him up from the dance, and also Sister Julian had dropped the kind of expository line about, oh, your lodgings are ready, so I know you'll be leaving us soon. We're really sad to see you go and everything. So I think we're kind of, they're planting the seed that, like, this was going to wind down. So he comes to her and he's like, well, let me just explain kind of why I'm such a freak. And he's not a freak. I apologize. Like, strike that from the record. But he wants to kind of explain himself a little bit better, because I think we're meant to think that he possibly thought that, she didn't like him because, he like, like she was kind of, not feeling
because he thought she'd stood him up. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so he says, oh, like, I knew my parents really didn't like each other. And so, like, I always felt the worst about it when there was silence. And so I would fill the silence with, talking, just to kind of like not have to deal with that, issue in my home growing up. And that's why I talk too much. And I know I talk too much, but, like, it's not you, it's me. Like, I know that this is kind of an issue I have and everything. And she just can't bring herself to say anything in that moment. But then she sees him, like, actually leaving to go to the train station. He's saying goodbye to Fred and everything. And then she runs up to him, to your point, Bex, and she's like, I had a childhood full of fear. And I felt like she, again, was saying something, she, what's that phrase? It's like, say the quiet part loud, or say the loud part quiet, or something, like, I got the sense that she had a really traumatic childhood filled with, who knows what.
Oh, she lived in St. Gideon's. Like, her parents just couldn't cope.
Well, no. But I mean, I don't get the feeling that she was necessarily born with an issue. I kind of got the feeling that maybe she did have some issues, but that something external to Jane drove her into St. Gideon's, and she didn't have anywhere else to go. And then she grew up there, then she became a trustee there. And then once she kind of, reached a certain level of stability and recovery, she was able to, maintain a life outside. But that, so I mean, I don't know if you'd categorize, I don't know that any of us could really tell exactly what it was, but, like, severe, like, that struck me as a really, like, traumatic stress response.
But also a gorgeous scene, because it was so lovely. It was so, like, they both gave something of themselves to each other. Like, it was a really poignant, really beautiful, like, it was them actually giving themselves to each other, giving their life stories to each other. They understood. It just showed how they understood each other. And then the fish was named Reverend Appleby Thornton, and I cheered, ladies. Loved it so much.
Well, and he says to her, "You're the bravest person. You are so brave. You're one of the bravest people I know." Because she says, "You deserve somebody who's brave, because I'm so weak and full of fear, and you deserve someone better." And he was like, "No, you're amazing." And the fact
that she shared that with him, though. Anyway, just talking about love, let's go on to the other love story really quick before we do Heroes and Zeros. Bernadette, up a bit, went a bit hotter. He's there. Timothy's there in his cute little school hat. I love that little hat. And, like, Patrick's like, what are you doing here? How dare you come to my work or whatever? It's like he's got this massive thing on his arm. Like, couldn't the school deal with it? Like, bloody hell, mate, your son's hurt his arm. And Sister Bernadette's like, oh, I'll help him. And then it's just like, he's like, oh, thank you so much. Like, she's already taken on a bit of a parenting role. Yeah. And then that picture that Timothy did for Bernadette, Sister Bernadette.
How did I miss this? I missed all of this.
Well, I don't know.
When in the episode was this?
Doesn't Sister Julianne say, "Oh, Dr. Turner left this for you. He's been meaning to give it you for ages."
Yeah, and it was a picture of Sister Bernadette and Timothy together, and she looks at it like, "Oh
God, I'm sorry, girls. I completely
100%. You were probably crying, Jem.
Oh, I know.
To be fair, Jen, this is why it's good. That is why it's a good point. If it was just you, we'd be getting the wrong names, and but we've got 3 people, so it's all good. It's all good. We're picking up the slack.
Yeah, exactly. This episode, this whole show would be a mere shadow of its full self if it was only me here.
So right now, on to Heroes and Zeros. Now I'm going to go first, so Jen doesn't nick them.
Okay.
Okay, so my hero of the week is Jane, for giving into it, for actually standing up to her fears. And she wanted Reverend Appleby Thornton, and she didn't meet him, and she felt awful, but then she stood up to her fears. and she did it, and my God, did I love that scene. 0 of the week. I was going to go with the Teddy Boys for doing a basically gang, but he did start it, and he did call them awful names. So, no, null and void point. My 0 of the week is Trixie for her judgmentalness. Thought she was judgy.
Jen, do you want to go next?
No, Bex, you're up. I'll save mine for last because I don't want to ruin anybody's heroes and zero. Okay, I'm not going to say a hero and zero ruiner this time.
So my hero of the week is going to be the Reverend Appleby Thornton. Not just for the romance with Jane, but the tales from Sierra Leone. The fact that one of the tribesmen challenged Chummy to a wrestling match.
Oh,
and
that was amazing.
And I won't try and do the pronunciation, but basically she's been nicknamed a lot of woman by the tribespeople.
I forgot about that.
So good.
This is why we need Breezy.
My 0 of the week is going to be Jenny for thinking that St. Gideon's was a good alternative to being in the family home.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I do think there is a place for support for families, but just that didn't seem like that didn't seem like that was like the easy option.
Yes. Okay, I'll go first with my 0 because I want to end up on a high note. And bleep this if you need to, but that spiteful bitch who made the comment about the baby being a cripple. I'm
keeping that in, it's worthy.
Yeah, I just can't stand that, and oh my God, I really hate that woman. I just thought she was so mean. And I would say she was just an example of the type of thinking. So, not her specifically, but you know what I mean? That type of thoughts. And then I want to give a hero to the, oh Lord.
She's going to check the name.
I am going to check the name.
She's going to choose mine.
No, a big hero to the Roberts family for really rising to the occasion, because and I'm just going to get on my soapbox here. Being a person with a disability does not mean that you are unable to have a rich and beautiful and full life and live to the fullest extent that any person on earth could live. And obviously when you're dealing with something like that, there's obstacles, there's limitations, but I love that the end of the show talked about the family really embracing him, and that he became, a beautiful and valued and wonderful part of their family that was allowed to thrive and did thrive and had a wonderful life. And that is what should be afforded to every single person. And so
it's going to be beautiful with parents like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have to give a real, I know it was a hard thing for them to get to that point, but heroes to them and to that little boy for doing so well and so successfully.
Well said.
And he's probably going to be a model, let's be honest.
Hey, listen, yeah, we need more good-looking people in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, the three of us can only do so much, right?
On that note, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you join us next week. What is it next week? Series 2, episode 5?
Yeah, and things are hotting up with Turnadette next week.
All right, girls. Bye.
Thank you for listening.
See you next week.